Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you kindly for stopping by. I wish you a great weekend. I hope the week's gone well. I took this photograph last night just before I went for dinner with Charles Island of the palm trees. It was about 7:15. It was really quite dark. And I was at Windsor. I took this photograph and tweeted it. I'd like to thank Charles for yesterday's dinner, for the time. I'd also like to thank Andrew Ali, whom I had a coffee with this morning as well. Thank you, Andrew. Macro thoughts remain that you buy the dollar on any retracements, and on that note it gives me an excuse to put up Andy Warhol's 100 $1 bills, which he did in 1965. Home thoughts: explosion without an objective, declared Miles Blundell, is politics in its purest form. Thomas Pynchon against the day. My favourite is, no matter how the official narrative of this turns out, it seemed to Heidi, these are the places we should be looking, not in newspapers or television, but at the margins, graffiti, uncontrolled utterances, bad dreamers who sleep in public and scream in their sleep. Bleeding Edge. And finally, if they can get you asking the wrong questions, they don't have to worry about the answers. New Scientist tweeted, if now was instant, we wouldn't see time flow. The present lasts longer than you may think. New Scientist, and they tweeted a wonderful picture, so I'll put that up as well. And that's a bit of a thought. Time is not out there. Now is a strange trick of the mind. The good news is that with training you can live in the moment for longer. What is now? It is an idea that physics treats as a mere illusion. Yes, it is something we are all familiar with. We tend to think of it as this current instant, a moment with no duration. But if now were timeless, we wouldn't experience a succession of nows as time passing. Neither would we be able to perceive things like motion. We couldn't operate in the world if the present had no duration. So how long is it? Sounds like a metaphysical question, but neuroscientists and psychologists have an answer. In recent years, they have amassed evidence indicating that now lasts an average between 2 and 3 seconds. Political reflections: Sri Lankan President Mahinda Rajapaksa conceded election defeat. And The Independent has an interesting article, the detail of which I just took one sentence. But he did not anticipate the emergence of Mr. Sirisena, who dined with him one evening and turned on him the next day. And I think it's time he moved on, frankly. Who Profits from Killing Charlie by Pepe Escobar. Careful planning and preparation. Kalashnikovs, rocket-propelled grenade launcher, balaclavas, sand-coloured ammunition vest stuffed with spare magazines, army boots, piece of cake escape in a black Citroën, and the icing on the lethal cake, faultless Paris-based logistical support to pull that off. A former top French military commander, Frédéric Gallois, has stressed the perfect application of urban guerrilla technique. This was a pro-job, says Pepe Escobar, and staying with option 1, this points right at what else? Blowback. The Obama administration is already mobilizing the UN Security Council. The FBI is helping with the French investigation. And as an Italian analyst memorably put it, jihadis don't attack a vulture hedge fund, they attack a satirical rag. This is not religion. This is hardcore geopolitics. Reminds me of David Bowie. This is not rock and roll. This is suicide. Apparently a day after the Paris attack, and it's unfolding on my screen actually. I've been following it via Twitter and the news, because the news has looked on it, just like Don DeLillo describes in many of his books. Officers carried out house-to-house searches in the village of Corsi, but things have moved on since there. Charlie Hebdo massacres has come to a tale of two brothers, the chief suspects Sharif, 32, and Saeed, 34, was said to be on the run last night in the countryside 80 miles northeast of Paris. Brothers are French, born in Paris, a few blocks from the scene of Wednesday's savage attack. As small boys, they were abandoned by their Algerian-born parents and brought up in a children's home in Brittany. Anderson Cooper tweeted moving words to remember from Charlie Hebdo editor Stéphane Charbonnier. I'll put that image up. And they apparently plan to publish 1 million copies in response to the Paris shooting. Counterpunch Patrick Coburn says it was culpably naive to imagine that sparks from the Iraq-Syrian civil war, now in its 4th year, would not spread explosive violence to Western Europe. One way of measuring the spread of Al-Qaeda type groups is to look at suicide bombings over the last week. Several of them inflicted heavier casualties than at Charlie Hebdo. For instance, in the Yemeni capital Sana'a, a suicide bomber driving a minibus packed with explosives killed 33 police cadets. On Tuesday, another suicide bomber killed 23 Iraqi and pro-government Sunni tribesmen in a town in Anbar province northwest of Baghdad. The day before, gunfire and a suicide bombing killed the general heading the Saudi border control force and 2 others on the Saudi-Iraq frontier. A week earlier, on 30th of December, a suicide bomb blew up outside the internationally recognized anti-jihadi Libyan government building in Tobruk. In this widening sea of violence, regardless of who carried out the Paris massacre, it would be surprising if Western European states remain unaffected. One of the characteristics of the modern jihadi movement has been to commit highly public atrocities, both as a method of intimidation and as a demonstration of the religious commitment of those carrying it out. The situation remains fluid. My concern remains that we're at a tipping point, and that this could spread like a contagion with every sort of character, which there must be several, looking for their 15 minutes of fame. But very professional, my view ultimately is these people are not representing Islam, they're representing something of their own making. Euro just above 118 at 118.07, touched a 117.54, which was the weakest level since December 2005. Dollar index 92.16, I remain bullish, as you know. Japanese yen 119.35, Swissy 101.72. Pound 150.95, touched 150.35, the lowest since July 2013. Aussie 0.8142, pretty big bounce actually on the Aussie. Indian rupee 62.305, that sort of improvement I talked about yesterday in the higher beta currencies is following through. Rial 266.32, Egyptian pound 715.15, and the rand 1158.45. Dollar index, I'll put up a 3-month chart, and I reiterate the point I made on 29th of September last year when I said the point I'm making is that the dollar has just started getting going. There will be blood in the water. There is a small window if we want to be the sharks. I'll put up an image of the shark that I took at Dubai Mall last year. Euro dollar 118.07. I've been targeting one for a while, and I learned that the world's best forecaster targets euro dollar parity according to a report on Bloomberg, so got some comfort. Crude oil, $5 chart, $49.16. As I said on the 13th of October last year, I put out a $50 price target. We've gone through that. I'll put up a 3-month chart. WTI added 0.6% in New York, and that's after jumping 1.5% in Thursday's session. Gold 1211.665. The FAO food price index fell in December to a 4-year low, so that's a positive development. Moving to emerging markets, I like this. Sleep like a sultan in the sublimely sumptuous royal suite at the Burj Al Arab in Dubai for $20,000 a night. Dubai is the real transit state, a connection point in an interconnected century was the title of a piece I wrote in February, and I still stand by that. And I took a photograph not too long ago of Dubai in the afternoon. I'll put that up. Interesting report has come out in the national newspaper referencing a report about social media during the Arab Spring. That link is there. Facebook and Twitter key to Arab Spring uprisings. That's no real news. We knew that. Nearly 9 in 10 Egyptians and Tunisians surveyed in March said they were using Facebook to organize protests or spread awareness about them. All but one of the protests called for on Facebook ended up coming to life on the streets. Very interesting analyses, the hashtags, etc., the surges that we saw on social media around key events. The Economist has an interesting piece, African Economic Growth, the Twilight of the Resource Curse. For decades, commodity prices have shaped Africa's economic growth. The continent is home to a third of the planet's mineral reserves, a tenth of the oil, and it produces 2/3 of the diamonds. Little wonder then that, as a rule, when prices for natural resources and export crops have been high, growth has been good. When they have dipped, so has the continent's economy. Over the past decade, Africa was among the world's fastest growing continents. Its average annual rate was more than 5%. Commodity prices were also high. In previous cycles, African economies have crashed when the price of minerals, oil, and other commodities have fallen. In 1998-1999, during an oil price fall, Nigeria's naira lost almost 80% of its value. African currencies again took a beating during a period of turmoil in commodity markets in 2009. Since last year, the price of oil has fallen by half, and many metals such as copper and iron ore have also dropped sharply. With commodity prices plunging, will the usual pattern repeat itself, asks The Economist, and then decides it won't. In some countries, large drops in commodity prices have led to currency falls. At least 10 African currencies dropped by more than 10% in 2014, but there have been few catastrophic depreciations. This suggests that investors do not see lower commodity prices as a kiss of death. I think it's going to be the kiss of death for a number of countries temporarily, that's for sure. And very interesting essay, well worth reading if you've got time. South African all share bounced 1.3% yesterday. It remains in negative territory, 0.33% this year. Dollar Rand improving in line with an improving sentiment over the last 48 hours, 11.58.48. Egyptian pound official rate 7.15.15. Egyptian stock market up 1.68%. It's up 0.26% year to date. The Nigerian stock market tanked another 2.4%. It's down 12.22% year to date. We learned from somebody on Twitter, entire set of villages razed to ground by Boko Haramis as they killed 2,000 yet again, but no world leader or media will express shock. They've killed dozens of people, burnt down homes. This is the town of Baga in the past 2 days, a second killing spree since seizing control there at the weekend. 2 locals said the insurgents began shooting indiscriminately and burning buildings on Tuesday evening in raids on the civilian population that carried on into Wednesday. I escaped with my family in the car after seeing how Boko Haram was killing people. I saw bodies in the streets, children and women. Some were crying for help. Mohammed Bukar told Reuters after fleeing to the state capital Maiduguri. The insurgency killed more than 10,000 people last year, according to a count by the Council on Foreign Relations in November. It is seen as the gravest threat to Nigeria and a headache for President Goodluck Jonathan ahead of an election on February the 14th. Soldiers fled Baga over the weekend, where the Sunni jihadist group overran a nearby army base. And I take you back to April 2014 when I said, when I referenced Abu Bakr Shekar, who taunted President Goodluck Jonathan with the comment, "I am in your city." On the 8th of September, I cited the insurgency tail risk as being a real big risk, and how it plays out having an important consequence for here and the entire Africa Rising narrative. I'll put up that image of Africa Rising of the poster for the conference in Maputo in Mozambique. Turning to the markets in Africa on the 10th of November, I said the Nigerian naira and the all share have been wagadugued by the collapse in the price of oil. I stand by my prediction that the currency goes to 200 and then 220. However, yesterday, the Nigerian naira rallied the most since 2003 and rallied 3.8% to 179.55. I don't think it'll last. I think it's a dead cat bounce. Ghana Stock Exchange is plus 0.5% year to date. Ghana's talking of reviving SEDI bond sales as an IMF deal is seen bolstering investors. Uganda is seeking to stem speculation as shilling falls to 3-year low. The Bank of Uganda has noted some speculative tendencies that have exacerbated the depreciation. The bank will take measures to tame the depreciation. Uganda shilling is down 2.9% in 2015. Well, obviously, I think it's less a story of African currency weakness and more a story of dollar strength. German companies in Africa undeterred by Ebola. This is a report in a German newspaper. And interestingly, this comment, the choice of Kenya as the most attractive market alongside economic heavyweight South Africa, shows that Germany is now also taking a closer look at smaller economies. The Nairobi Securities Exchange has raided Cooperative Bank for its top official, appointing Mr. Jeffrey Odundo as the new CEO of the bourse. The official announcement is on Rich Wrap-Ups and on the front page. Chris Kirubi and Centum have signed an agreement to sell their shares in insurance group UAP Holdings to Old Mutual. The transaction is priced at an undisclosed premium on UAP's current price of 140 shillings per share on the over-the-counter market. With its 211 million issued shares, UAP is valued at about 30 billion shillings. Kirubi had a 9.58% stake, and Centum had a 13.75% stake in the company. The official announcement is also on Rich Wrap-Ups, as is a link for the share price data and other information for Centum. Kenya shilling just below 91. Nairobi All Share could not snap its losing streak, though it only retreated by 0.01%. NSE 20 snapped a 2-day winning streak to close down 0.1%. On that note, I'm going to put up a photograph of Fort Jesus in Mombasa, taken from English Point. I was talking about that Congo mosque I visited on the south coast, and somebody tweeted me something they'd written: Congo, Diane's ancient mosque by the beach, Don Pablo 5254. Diane hosts one of the oldest structures in Eastern Africa, the Congo Mosque. A relic of the Kilwa Sultanate, dates back to sometime between the 13th and 15th century. According to local tradition, the mosque was so named after one of the graves that dot the area was found to have the name Sadiki Congo inscribed on its headstone. The Congo name was subsequently lent to the nearby river to the surrounding area. Structure made of coral rock, quite similar to the Great Mosque of Kilwa. Swahili language and culture came into being. At its height, the Sultanate covered the entire Swahili coast from Lamu to the Mozambican coast in the south, going a few kilometers inland. I'll put up a photograph of the Golden River. This is Congo River's golden glow at sunset, again Don Pablo. A photograph that Don took inside the Congo Mosque. Then a photograph I took of baobab trees at the Congo Mosque on December the 30th, and another one I took on 30th of December of the beach. Ali Hussein, who I follow on Twitter, tweeted me a photograph of the Indian Ocean trade route circa 1700. I think this is very relevant in the context of a reinvigorated Indian Ocean economy. Like I said in August 2013, I have no doubt the Indian Ocean is set to regain its glory days. On that note, I'll put up a photograph of some fishermen that I took just off Wasini Island. NSE has been a little bit soft at the Securities Exchange. Market is circumspect and thin response to the CGT interference. Safaricom 8.33% below a record closing high. I think it turns higher. Uchumi has had a good bounce, up 15.2713% over the last month. KCB unchanged at 6.66% below a record high. NIC Bank got a little bit of a pop over the last two sessions. This is around talk on social media of a potential merger between NIC, which is listed, and CBA, which isn't. Mumia Sugar rallied 5.263% to close at 2. It's up by the daily maximum today. That was all around news that the Treasury were considering assisting Mumias. EABL, I had dinner last night with the CEO, Charles, rallied 0.9836%, plus 1.986% in 2015. And in my view, poised to have a very strong year in 2015 with a 400 shilling target. KPLC has raced out of the blocks this year, up 12.152%. And it was Cabinet Secretary Chair who explained to us what that was all about. That's about refinancing with the World Bank and sharply reducing interest rate costs. I wish you a great weekend and a safe one. Once again, I appreciate the fact you come by.